Welcome to the Introduction to Photoshop course. In this video, I'm going to go over some basic information on getting started with the Photoshop software. When you installed your Photoshop software, you may have put an icon on your desktop. If you don't have an icon on your desktop, under your Start menu, there may be Adobe Photoshop Creative Cloud 2019 under the short menu. If you don't see it there under your search bar, you can just type Photoshop, and then that should come up under your program list. With Photoshop Creative Cloud, one of the things that was added was a startup menu. And so that's what we see here. In just a little bit, I'm going to show you how to remove the startup window if you'd like to. But at the startup window, you have an option to either open a file that you've already created or start a new image file. So I'm just going to select Create New. At the next window, I'm just going to select the default Photoshop size. If I wanted to adjust it, I can do that over here on the right side, but I'm just going to go ahead and select the default Photoshop size, hit Create, and then that'll take me to my Photoshop software. And as I said before, if you want to remove that startup window and go directly to the software, you can do that by going up to Edit, and then at the very bottom of Edit Options is Preferences, and then under Preferences, you're going to take the top one, which is General, and then you're going to put a check mark under Disable the Home Screen. So then we'll put a check mark there and say OK. So then the next time that software is open, that startup home screen will no longer display. It'll just go directly to the software. And at that point, you can either create a new file or open up a file that you might be using for a lab. So now just to discuss some key points about the software itself. On the left-hand screen is what's called our toolbox. When the toolbox first was created on the original Photoshop, it was actually double-rowed. So at the top, there's a really small arrow that can take it from single to double. Probably most of the time, you're just going to keep it single because it does take up less space, but that option is there. And then in this toolbox, there's various tools that we're going to use during the semester, but I'm going to go up here and select the Marquee tool. And the Marquee tool has several different options, and if I select the small drop-down arrow in the bottom right corner, those will come up, and I can see I have 4 different Marquee tool options. There's also shortcuts for each one of the tools. And so as you can see here, a letter M is next to the Marquee tool, so that's the shortcut. So if I go down here and click on the lasso tool, I can go to my keyboard and select M, and then that'll make my Marquee tool become active again. I can also hold down on my Alt key and click with my mouse, and that'll rotate through each one of the Marquee tools. So just remember there's shortcut keys if you would like to use, and if you use your Alt key and your click with your mouse, that'll rotate through each one of the tool options that are basically hidden below the other option on the bar. Now, when I have the Marquee tool selected, across the top, these are the different options that are available to use with the Marquee tool. So if I go down here and select the lasso tool, that option bar across the top changes, and these are the options that are specific to the lasso tool. Now, as I said before, this is our what we call our work area. On the right side are the palettes that you'll use for the images. The one that's probably used the most is the layer palette. The palettes are basically opened under the window menu at the top. So when I select window, Anything that has a check mark next to it is what's currently active. So you'll notice right now that you can see your color has a check mark and layer has a check mark. So if I go up here and I click color, that'll deselect that, and notice that my color palette now is closed. So if I go back up to window, click on color, that'll open back up the color palette. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the Photoshop software and some of the basic tools that we'll be using in this class this semester. So look forward to having a good semester and having you learn how to use Photoshop software.